At the beach house, my sister said, we voted. You get the couch, we get the bedrooms. My dad just shrugged. You didn't help pay for anything anyway. I nodded, stepped outside to take a call, and 10 minutes later, the Wi-Fi, AC, and power all went out. They didn't know whose name was on the utilities until I drove away with the only set of keys. I, 32M, had been looking forward to this trip for months. The beach house wasn't just some vacation rental. It was the place my mom had loved more than anywhere else in the world. She'd spent her last good summer there, walking the beach every morning, collecting shells, watching the sunset from the deck. When she passed 2 years ago, she left it to me. Not to my sister, not split between us. Just me. The will was clear, the lawyer was clear, and I'd spent the last 24 months making sure the place didn't fall apart. My sister had always been Dad's favorite. That was just a fact I'd accepted somewhere around age 12. She was outgoing where I was quiet, charismatic where I was reserved. She knew how to work a room, how to make Dad laugh, how to get what she wanted. I was the one who showed up, who helped Mom with the house projects, who drove her to appointments when she got sick. My sister visited twice during those last 8 months. Twice. But this weekend was supposed to be different. Dad had suggested we all go down to the beach house together. Me, him, my sister, her husband, and their 2 kids. A family reunion, he called it. A chance to make new memories. I'd agreed because I wanted to believe we could be normal, that we could spend 3 days together without everything turning into a comparison, a competition, a subtle reminder of who mattered more. I should have known better. The drive down took 4 hours. I'd gone early to open up the house, check that everything was running, stock the fridge with groceries I'd paid for. The place looked good. I'd had the deck repaired last spring, replaced the water heater in January, paid someone to deep clean before summer started. The utilities alone cost me close to $400 a month, even when nobody was there. Property taxes were another beast entirely. But it was worth it. Mom had wanted me to keep it, to use it, to make it a place our family could always come back to. Dad and my sister arrived 3 hours after me. The kids spilled out of the car first, racing toward the beach with their buckets and shovels. My brother-in-law started unloading suitcases. Dad clapped me on the shoulder, said something about how great the place looked. My sister breezed past me into the house, already on her phone, already calling dibs on things I hadn't even offered yet. I followed them inside and watched as my sister walked straight to the master bedroom, the one with the king bed, the ocean view, the private bathroom. She dropped her bags on the floor and turned to her husband, telling him this was perfect, exactly what she needed. Then she moved to the second bedroom, the one with the bunk beds, and announced the kids would take that one. That left 2 rooms, the small guest room with the double bed, and the living room couch. I stood in the hallway, waiting for someone to acknowledge that I actually lived here sometimes, that I'd driven down early to set everything up, that my name was on every single bill. Nobody said anything. My brother-in-law brushed past me with another load of luggage. Dad was already out on the deck, beer in hand. My sister emerged from the master bedroom and looked at me like she'd just remembered I existed. She walked into the kitchen where Dad had come back inside to grab a snack. I was standing near the counter, still holding my own duffel bag, still waiting for someone to ask where I planned to sleep. My sister leaned against the island and announced that she and her husband had talked it over. They'd voted. She'd get the master, the kids would get the bunk room, and Dad would take the guest room. I asked where exactly I was supposed to sleep. She shrugged and said the couch was actually pretty comfortable. She'd napped on it last time she was here, 2 years ago, before Mom died, back when she still pretended to care. I looked at Dad, waiting for him to say something. Anything. He took a long drink from his beer, set it down, and told me I hadn't helped pay for anything anyway, so what did it matter? The words landed like a punch to the chest. I felt my jaw tighten, felt heat crawl up my neck. I hadn't helped pay for anything. I'd paid for everything. Every single thing. The mortgage was paid off, but the insurance, the taxes, the utilities, the repairs, all of it came out of my account. I'd spent thousands keeping this place running. Dad knew that. He had to know that. I asked him if he was serious. He shrugged again, said something about how I was being dramatic, how it was just one weekend, how I should stop making everything about me. My sister smirked. Actually smirked. She turned to her husband and said something about finally getting some peace and quiet. How nice it would be to have the good room for once. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. The kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself about who people are. I nodded slowly, told them I needed to take a call, and walked outside. The beach was empty. The sun was starting to dip, painting everything gold and orange. I stood on the deck for a minute, phone in hand, letting the wind pull at my shirt. Then I made the first call. The utility company answered on the second ring. I explained that I needed to suspend service at my property effective immediately. The rep asked if I was sure, mentioned something about reconnection fees. I told her I was sure. She put me on hold, came back 2 minutes later, and confirmed everything would be shut off within the hour. Next was the internet provider. Same conversation, same result. Then the security system. I called the company that monitored it, canceled the service, and reset the access codes to something nobody else would guess. The power company was last. I gave them the account number, verified my identity, and requested immediate disconnection. The guy on the other end paused, asked if there was a problem. I told him there wasn't. I just didn't need service at that address anymore. By the time I hung up, 15 minutes had passed. I walked back to my truck, popped the tailgate, and grabbed the metal lockbox I kept under the seat. Inside was the only other set of keys to the beach house, the ones I'd had made after Mom died, the ones nobody else knew existed. I pocketed those, left the box, and pulled out my duffel bag. I was halfway to the truck when the lights inside the house flickered once, then died. The hum of the air conditioning cut off. Through the window, I saw my sister's face appear, confused, annoyed. She called out to her husband, asking what happened. He said something back I couldn't hear. I climbed into the driver's seat, tossed my bag in the passenger side, and started the engine. My phone buzzed. Dad. I let it ring. It buzzed again. My sister. I declined that one too. The driveway crunched under my tires as I backed out. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Dad step onto the deck, phone pressed to his ear. My sister came out behind him, arms crossed, yelling something I couldn't make out. I shifted into drive and rolled toward the main road. My phone didn't stop buzzing for the next 30 miles. Update 1. I didn't answer any of the calls that night. There were 14 from Dad, 9 from my sister, a handful from my brother-in-law. By the time I got home, my voicemail was full. I deleted every single one without listening. I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to a string of increasingly frantic texts. My sisters were the most colorful, lots of capital letters, lots of accusations. She wanted to know what I'd done, why the power was out, how I could be so selfish. She said the kids were scared, that it was too hot to sleep, that I'd ruined the entire trip. Dad's messages were more measured, but no less demanding. He wanted me to fix this, to stop being childish, to think about the family. He said I was overreacting, that I'd misunderstood what he meant, that this wasn't how adults handled conflict. I made coffee and read through all of it while sitting on my own couch, in my own house, with my own air conditioning running just fine. Around noon, my sister called from a different number, probably her husband's. I answered. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. She demanded I tell her how to turn the power back on. I asked her why she thought I would know. She said I'd obviously done something, that the timing was too convenient. I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She called me a liar, said she knew I'd shut everything off out of spite. I asked her if she had proof. She sputtered, said she didn't need proof, that she knew me. I told her that was interesting, considering she hadn't bothered to know me for most of my life. The line went quiet for a second. Then she said I was being cruel, that this wasn't about the bedroom, that I was punishing everyone because I didn't get my way. I asked her if she'd ever once considered that the house was mine, that I paid for everything, that maybe I deserved basic respect in my own home. She told me it wasn't my home, it was Mom's. I said Mom left it to me, not her. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Dad called. His tone was different, less demanding, more strategic. He asked if we could talk, really talk, without getting emotional. I told him I was listening. He said he understood I was upset, that maybe he hadn't been clear about things, that he didn't realize how much work I'd put into the house. He said we could figure out a better arrangement, that next time I could have the master bedroom, that this was all just a miscommunication. I asked him if he remembered what he'd said to me yesterday. He hesitated, then said he might have spoken out of turn, that he was tired from the drive. I told him I'd paid over $30,000 in the last 2 years keeping that house standing. Insurance, taxes, repairs, utilities, maintenance, all of it. I asked him how much my sister had contributed. He didn't answer. I asked him how much he'd contributed. Still nothing. I told him I was done pretending we were a family that split things equally when I was the only one carrying the weight. I said if he wanted to stay at the beach house, he was welcome to, after he paid me back for half the expenses and covered his share of the utilities going forward. He said I was being unreasonable. I hung up. Update 2. By Sunday evening, my phone had finally gone quiet. I assumed they'd packed up and left, driven back home to air conditioning and working Wi-Fi. I assumed wrong. Monday morning, I got a call from my uncle, Dad's brother. He'd apparently gotten an earful about what a terrible son I was, how I'd abandoned the family, how I'd left them stranded without power in the middle of summer. He called to ask my side of things. I told him everything. The bedroom situation, Dad's comment, my sister's smirk, the years of paying for everything while being treated like I didn't matter. I told him about the calls I'd ignored, the texts demanding I fix a problem I didn't create. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said Dad had always had a blind spot when it came to my sister, that he wasn't surprised things had gone this way. He asked what I planned to do with the house. I said I didn't know yet. Maybe sell it. Maybe keep it for myself. Maybe rent it out. What I didn't know was that I was done letting people take advantage of me just because we shared DNA. He told me that was fair, that I didn't owe anyone access to something I'd worked to maintain. Then he said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is let people prove who they are, then believe them. I thanked him and hung up. That afternoon, I drove back down to the beach house. I wanted to see the place one more time to figure out what I actually wanted to do with it. When I pulled into the driveway, I half expected to find it empty. Instead, Dad's car was still there. I used my keys to unlock the front door and stepped inside. The house was sweltering, airless. The smell of old takeout containers hit me immediately. Trash was piled in the kitchen. Towels were scattered across the bathroom floor. The master bedroom looked like a hurricane had torn through it. Dad was sitting on the deck, sweating through his shirt, phone in hand. He looked up when he heard me come outside. For a second, neither of us said anything. He asked if I'd come to turn the power back on. I told him I'd come to get the rest of my things and make sure the house was locked up properly. He said they'd been trying to tough it out, that they didn't want to let me win. I asked him what exactly he thought he was losing. He didn't answer. I told him he had 2 hours to pack up and leave. After that, I'd be changing the locks and calling the police if anyone tried to come back without my permission. He started to argue, said I couldn't do that this was family property. I reminded him that the deed had my name on it, not his, not my sister's. He stood up, tried to pull the authority card, told me I was making a mistake I'd regret. I told him the only mistake I'd made was believing he actually cared about me as much as he cared about her. I walked back inside, grabbed the few personal items I'd left behind, and checked every room to make sure nothing was damaged beyond the mess. Then I went out to my truck and waited. 90 minutes later, Dad carried the last bag to his car. He didn't say goodbye, didn't look at me, just got in and drove off. I waited until his taillights disappeared, then went back inside and started cleaning. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since the beach house incident. I haven't spoken to my sister. Dad sent one email, a long, rambling thing about forgiveness and family loyalty and how Mom would be disappointed in me. I didn't respond. What I did do was hire a property manager, someone who could handle rentals, maintenance requests, bookings. The house is listed now, available for weekly stays during the summer, long weekends in the off-season. It's already booked solid through September. I kept 2 weeks in August blocked off for myself. Just me. No family votes, no bedroom negotiations, no comments about who paid for what. I'll sit on the deck, watch the sunset, and remember why Mom loved this place so much. My uncle called last week to check in. He said Dad's been complaining to anyone who'll listen, painting me as ungrateful and spiteful. My sister's apparently told her friends I stole her inheritance. The story gets more dramatic every time it's retold. I don't care anymore. The thing nobody tells you about setting boundaries is how much lighter you feel afterward. For years, I bent myself into shapes trying to earn my father's approval, trying to compete with my sister's charm, trying to be enough. I paid for things I couldn't afford, swallowed comments that hollowed me out, showed up for people who never once showed up for me. I'm done with that now. The beach house is mine. The decision is mine. And for the first time in a long time, I'm choosing myself. My phone just buzzed, another message from Dad. I glanced at the preview. Something about needing to talk, about working things out. I swiped it away and went back to my coffee. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some people aren't worth the energy. And some bridges are better burned than crossed.